Hello and good evening to Mr. Lee. Today, our group consisting of me, Tan Lee M, Alice Tan, and Ling Xing Yi will present task 3 of our coursework for EDUP 3053 Technology for Teaching and Learning. First, let's take a look at what is the Assure model. The Assure model is an ISD, which means Instructional System Design. It is a procedural guide for teachers or trainers in the regular classroom to plan, design, and develop the most appropriate learning material for their students while integrating technology and media into the teaching process. So, Assure is actually an acronym that stands for A. Analyze learners. S. State standards and objectives. S. Select strategies, technology, media, and material. U. Utilize technology, media, and material. R. Require learner participation. And last, E. Evaluate and revise. For the first stage of the Assure model, it is to analyze learners. In order to construct a good lesson, there must be a match between the characteristics of the learner and the content of the lesson's methods, media, and materials. So for this stage, there are 3 main points that we have to analyze. And that are, first, the learner's general characteristics, second, their entry characteristics, and last, their learning styles. Let's take a look at the learner's general characteristics. This lesson is prepared for a class of Year 4 pupils that consists of 24 students with 10 boys and 14 girls. All of the students have no learning disabilities. The academic ability of the students are below average, and they have difficulty focusing during class. These students, however, show an appreciation for the use of technology in learning and assessment, and half of them benefited from it. So, for this lesson, we designed it to overcome the problem as much as possible. As for the entry characteristics, the students have been exposed to prepositions in their daily lives, so it is not a foreign subject to them to learn about prepositions in class. This can also help deepen their understanding towards each preposition that could be applied in their daily lives. And also at the same time, we can introduce them to more new prepositions. As for the learning styles, most of the students in this class are visual learners, where they learn best through visual means. They prefer looking at things to absorb information. The next stage of the Assure model is stating the standards and objectives of the lesson. This lesson is designed to enhance students' understanding towards prepositions. So for this lesson, the objectives are, at the end of the lesson, students will be able to give directions based on a map by using correct prepositions and answer correctly at least 15 out of 20 questions on prepositions on a question paper given by a teacher. The content standard and learning standards are from the Year 4 DSKP for English language. Let's take a look at the content standards. The content standards are, by the end of the 6-year primary schooling, pupils will be able to listen and respond appropriately in formal and informal situations for a variety of purposes, and understand and respond orally in variety of contexts. As for the learning standard, students will be able to listen, follow, and give directions around the neighborhood, and able to listen to demonstrate understanding of oral text. For the following stages, I will allow my groupmates, Alice and Ling, to present. That is all from me. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I'm Alice. Now I'm going to explain the third and fourth stage of the Assure model, which are the selection of strategies, media and materials, and also the utilization of media and materials. First of all, I will talk about the third stage. For selecting strategies, media and materials, the teacher has to consider some criteria. The criteria can be age appropriateness, and whether it is relatable to students' skills and prior knowledge. Strategies is about how the class is going to be conducted. In our lesson, the teacher-centered strategy is used at the beginning of the lesson or the presentation stage, when the teacher introduces the definition of prepositions to the students and also give examples and explanations of these prepositions in various contexts. Here, the teacher is in charge and plays a more active role compared to the students. The main skill used by the students during this presentation stage is listening skill. For student-centered strategy, students discuss among themselves to describe directional prepositions based on the map. During this time, they are free to express their opinions and ideas. Next is the media. In our lesson plan, we chose text, audio, and visuals. Texts are used in the form of notes. As the students read through the notes, they use reading skills like skimming and scanning. For audio, we use audio to engage the students' listening skill, as listening is important in language learning and it is a 21st century skill. Visuals are also important to create an interesting and immersive lesson. For example, we use a video and map to capture the attention of students and motivate them to actively participate in class. Next up is the materials. For selection of instructional materials, our lesson has chosen to use a video on prepositions, practices for the topic, and quiz. These can help to test the students' understanding and mastery levels of prepositions, the topic. In this slide, I show some examples of the text and audio and visuals used in our lesson. You can see that under text there are two pictures. These are the notes that the teacher will prepare for the students. On the right side of the slide, we have two pictures. The first one is the screenshot of the video we chose for the students to watch, and the second picture is a map which we retrieved from the Year 4 English language textbook. The next stage is utilize media and materials. First of all, the teacher has to preview the materials. He or she must check the suitability of the media and materials, whether they are appropriate to the learning objectives of our lesson, and whether it is suitable to the students' English proficiency level and their previous knowledge. The teacher must also make sure that these materials come from reliable and credible sources, and make sure that the video and the links for the games and the codes are functioning properly. Next up, the teacher has to prepare the materials. By gathering the materials and equipment needed and arranging them in sequence in a list so it makes sense. For example, texts are used while the teacher shares the notes on prepositions with the students. Here, the students are required to read the notes to better understand the topic. Audio is used when the video on prepositions is played. This can improve the students' listening comprehension. In the case that the students cannot keep up with the video, they can adjust the playback speed and even switch on the subtitles. Students also have to listen attentively when the teacher defines and explains prepositions. Another example of visual used in the lesson is the map which we got from the textbook. To use the map, the teacher will display it to the students and together they will discuss how a character gives directions to travel from one place to another. An example situation is when a girl called Alexa moves from Neptune Garden to the planetarium and then to Jupiter Garden. Besides that, the teacher has to prepare the environment. He or she must arrange the facilities for proper student use of the media and materials. This means that the teacher needs to set up the Google Classroom and upload the Google Meet link, the game link for quizzes, and its code, the video link from YouTube, and other documents required for the class, such as the notes, the map, and practice. Last but not least, the teacher has to prepare the learners. According to TS25, which is known as the Transformasi Sekolah 25, the teacher has to state the learning objectives for the lesson. This aims to give the students an overview of the lesson so that they can estimate what they must achieve at the end. And they are clear of the learning objectives, which in this case, in our lesson, the learning objectives are that the students can give directions based on a map by using correct prepositions and also answer correctly at least 15 out of 20 questions on prepositions. Also, the teacher should briefly explain the activities that will be conducted and give students motivation by stating the importance of prepositions in the English language. That is all for my explanation on the third and fourth stage in the Assure model, which are selection of strategies, media and materials, and also utilizing media and materials. My groupmate Ling will continue her explanation on the last two steps of the Assure model. That is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Now I will continue the last two phases in the Assure model. R in this model represents required learner participation. The active involvement of the students in the lesson will not only engage themselves, but it will help them retain what they are learning. There are some ways to do this, such as by incorporating cooperative learning structures, questioning, or having discussions. So in our lesson, the teacher will share a link of games in the Google Classroom for the students to participate in the quizzing. After participating through the game, the teacher will share a map extracted from the textbook Year 4, Unit 10 on the Google Meet. So based on the map, the students are required to give the direction using appropriate prepositions they learned previously. Since the main idea of the Assure model is to get the student actively involved in the learning content, so the map discussion part will done a good job in letting them to involve in the lesson. The student will have a discussion among them which represent cooperative learning structure, and while for the teacher, the role of the teacher in the classroom in the lesson is as a guide on the side. After that, the student will have to volunteer themselves to give the answer. For the last phase in the Ursula model, that is E. E stands for evaluate and revise. In this step, the impact on the student's learning are evaluate. Evaluation should be focused on the feedback from the student to the teaching strategy and also the technology, media and material that used. The feedback are collected from the students are in the form of survey or other words Q&A section and also the data. For the Q&A section, or we call it survey, it is the direct question the teacher asks the student on, do you enjoy the class today, or what activity do you like the most? And also the teacher can ask the question like, shall we try another platform in our next class other than Google Classroom and Google Meet? Okay. By evaluating the feedback from the student with the objective, it can be determined whether the lesson is effective and whether any steps are needed to be modified or re-examining. So in this phase, in the E phase, the teacher will provide a preposition worksheet to the student as homework. The homework is not only improve their understanding on the lesson, but it also as a way for the teacher to assess the student's understanding so that he or she can revise whether further preposition lesson should be carried out. So now let us look at the preposition worksheet in the Google Classroom. Okay, so this is the this is the worksheet on the preposition. There are a total of 20 questions, and the teacher can write the number of students get it correct at the bottom and also the suggested actions. Okay, now I will talk about the evaluation that is done in this phase. There are three. The first one is media effectiveness. So this will be assessed through the observation. The teacher will observe whether the students are familiar with the platform they are experienced in the lesson, and the teacher will observe to see whether they take too long to discover the platform and do they engage in the learning platform. The second one is instructor performance. Is assessed through the feedback from the student through their non-verbal communication, such as their response, their eye contact, and also their participation. The last one is the learning objective. It is assessed through the rubric and the homework the teacher gives to the student. The teacher will create a rubric based on the student's performance as detailed as possible, such as how much students display their understanding on the preposition. And also the teacher can determine their ability to give the direction clearly to people during the map discussion part. So from the rubric, the teacher can actually know the student level and also to see whether a few extra lessons will help the student or not. For the homework, the teacher can assess whether the student has met the learning objective because the more they get it correct, the closer the learning objective meet. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much. See you.
As you can see on the left side of our screen, in the corner, we have our class called For Daisy. After clicking into it, you can see in the first line there is the class code for the students to join the class. And then in the second line, we have the Google Meet link for when the lesson starts. Here in the stream, we have posted some materials. In the first post, we have the notes, video, and the map. For the notes, we have explanations and example sentences. This is the tube video.
Asking for and giving directions.
It works perfectly fine, and we can add the subtitles and change the playback speed. This is the map which we retrieved from the Year 4 English Language textbook, page 122. In the second post, we have the game code and the game link for quizzes. The link is working. And then in the third post, we have the task for the students. This is so we can assess the students and evaluate their mastery levels of the prepositions topic.